There we go. Okay. All right. So hi guys, we got four of you on. No faces, that's okay. Um, but thank you for hopping on today. I'm excited that there's a few of you eager to learn more about LoopSpark. We've got Drew on the call today who is going to be monitoring the chat. So I'm going to kind of roll through things and keep going. So if you have any questions, thoughts, anything, feel free to throw them in the chat. And if we have time at the end, we'll go over everything. Or if it's something important, Drew will interrupt me and we'll address it right away. But um, yeah, so we'll dive right in. So talking about LoopSpark today. So some of you may have seen or even commented on the post that we posted a couple weeks ago in our page asking about LoopSpark, what kind of questions you have and pain points as you're working through building out LoopSpark and utilizing it for your teams. And so I utilized the answers from that poll to kind of figure out what our focus is for today and then any future trainings. And the number one question that I have been getting and over the, past few years too is the creation of automations is the biggest pain point. And more specifically, the audience setups. And not necessarily even just the setup of that audience because it is a puzzle, but understanding everything that you are able to do and who you are able to contact and how, but then also what is already available for you that HQ has created and how you can use that then to have a more organized approach to your lead nurturing and your member retention and all the great things that LoopSpark can do for you. So I've probably said it to many of you before, but if you haven't heard it before, LoopSpark is not a super easy program to use. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or anything, you're not alone. Like I just said, it is a puzzle. And so hopefully what we go over today helps that out a little bit. What I'm going to be doing is try not to be super basic on the overview of everything, but I'm going to dive into the automations. More specifically, basing it off of HQ had released a document a few weeks ago that kind of showed all of the updated automations that are in there and the most important ones to be using for majority of the time, especially during free trials, that period, but also during promotions can be used for those as well. So I'm going to be going through those one by one, kind of picking them apart, understanding who the target audiences are, what the cadence is, the purpose of each of them, and then showing you guys as I go through what those audiences look like. So with that being a big pain point for people of understanding those audiences, hopefully as we kind of go through and read them line by line, it'll start making sense of how they're put together, and then you can kind of be more familiar with them as you're building them or editing them in the future. So I'm going to share my screen. I am utilizing the Maple Grove account just because they aligned pretty closely with the things that we're going to go over today, but not here to criticize, not here to dive into their account or anything that they're doing differently. There's probably going to be some things that they are automations that they don't have running that I would suggest are running, but based on the way that your team does their lead nurturing process, whether that's a trial tracker, lead tracker, different execution that you do in the gym, or it's an outside additional company that helps you with that lead nurturing, those automations might be set up a little bit differently to help. So there's no overlapping of any of that process. So moving on, share my screen. All right. Can we see it? Drew, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So just starting on the dashboard here, I'm not going to dive in. There's so many things that we can talk about on LoopSpark, and there have been questions about forms and waivers and the segments on the bottom here, which I could talk about that, and it'll definitely be something that we can, if there's time at the end, dive into or save for another training. But if you're not familiar with this segment section at the bottom here, start thinking about it and familiarizing yourself with it now, especially with promotion coming up. This is a great spot to kind of have a snapshot of your day. And the things that are going on in your gym in real time. So your team can come in at the start of their shift and log in and see who has a first. Okay, there's nobody with a first camp happening today. If we're in promo, maybe there's one that says they're started their promotion, but they haven't signed a membership yet. Birthdays coming up, things like that. So as we're going through and talking about all these audiences too, keep in mind some of those that might be helpful for you to have on the front screen there. But diving in then to the automation list. So there's a lot of automations in here, and it's probably going to look different from what your location looks like, depending on if you've created your own or what promotions you've done, things like that. Might look different of what HQ has pushed out here. I'm again just going to go through the basic ones that I think are the most important, and I'm going to attempt to go from start to finish of the lead flow process, from when a lead comes in to when they become a member, and then all the way to if they end up maybe ending their membership and what that looks like too. So Maple Grove here is doing a 3-day trial. So I'm going to start there with their 3-day trial form fill. All form fill categories, whether it's the free or any promotional, work in the same way. The form fill is populated when that lead goes to your Burn Bootcamp location page, fills out the web form, and submits that. Doesn't complete if there's a next step purchase or signing up for completing that registration for a trial. So they fill out that form and then they land here with a goal to then encourage them to complete that purchase. Now, a couple things could be different in how you run your account here, and correct me if I'm wrong, my most recent understanding of the way MindBody works is you can have 2 options of either selling a trial in gym or having it available to be sold online. I think most people go with the keeping it online option, so then it's a 2-step process to completing their sign up. So the form fill would be that first one, and then there would be the additional complete your purchase that would take them to MindBody to complete that purchase. So that's what these form fills are encouraging them to then do, is complete that purchase. So immediate email and to do happening right away. And then if they have not completed that purchase yet, there's a text on day 2. Reasons why these 2 might be off here. Again, if you have a different lead nurturing process, if you have a tracker that everybody knows once that lead comes in, you're reaching out right away. I would suggest, even with this immediate email, keeping that one on as kind of a confirmation that they have started the process of signing up, or even keeping the to-do on as a good idea of just knowing when somebody comes in as a form fill. However, I have also heard from many locations that to-dos can become very overwhelming because there are a lot of different ones in here, different options. So again, thinking about what's best for your location, but also important to know that that lead happened right away. So I'm just going to show you then the 2 days after that form fill for the 3-day trial.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah,
Or do you want me to wait until the end?
go for it. Let's see what you.
Well, I just typed it in the chat, but I don't know how you want to do this. But so for form fills, I know with other agencies that I've worked with, they have texted right away. I know the to-dos are supposed to be for calling, but people don't ever pick up the phone. So would it be better to like text right away to try to get them while they're filling out the form?
I mean, that's definitely an option to, you could duplicate this 2 days after and create an immediate text. There is, a couple things to think about. There is the opt-in, whether they're opt-in or not. I know it's hopefully getting easier and more people opting in with the new changes of the landing page and the signups now. But there is that where not everybody might get that text. And then there is a bit of a lag, with my understanding, up to about 20 minutes in which these trigger and send off. So it might not be right away immediate as they're in that form fill that they would get a text, but it certainly is not a bad idea to get that right away, especially knowing even myself that I don't answer a phone call, but I'll look at a text message. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just strikes me as like interesting that they do an immediate email but not immediate text. So okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And Jen, one of the things that some locations do is they will text from their location phone.
That's what I do too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
but I don't always get a response there either. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things to like why some locations don't put that automatic text in right away. So they'll automatically send the email, but then when they call from their burn phone, then they'll text as well at that time. So that to do is kind of both then.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So so I'll show you guys then this 2 days after the form fill text, kind of how that audience reads out. So first one being client tag. So the opt-out tag, they don't have any opt-outs, so they're going to continue to receive prospect automations. Client tag is a 3-day trial. So that tag happens once they fill out that form on the web page. So they had a tag that was assigned exactly 2 days ago. They have booked zero bookings in the last 7 days that they have attended. So they have not attended any camps in the last 7 days. There are 0 bookings that they've attended in the last 180 minutes, 3 hours. So in case there was some lag in the system or there was something missed, that they did come in and it was missed, they're not getting any communication that they have not been in for camp. And then 0 bookings upcoming. So they haven't booked a camp in the future. And then the last one being package. So package is either that free trial or that paid voucher, paid promo. So exactly 0 packages purchased of any of these trial options, any of the paid options that were purchased in the last 30 days. So they haven't purchased anything yet. They're still in that form fill, abandoned cart spot, no camps booked, nothing like that. Now, if you wanted to, add in like a text for day 1, I would probably suggest going back to the immediate email and utilizing, or the to-do and utilizing the setup of that audience, and just changing it to a text and creating that out there. So from the form fill then, hoping that they then complete that purchase, that sign up, they end up in this trial membership purchase not yet active category. This is a universal category that is going to work for all trial options, all paid options. And so it is very generic in the messaging. And so, most of you have probably heard us talk about this with promos on how you might want to change some of this verbiage up to be specific to your paid offer, but just know that this is pretty basic. And again, depending on what your lead nurturing process is, and if you have maybe other people reaching out or a different cadence for your contacts, there might be certain things that you want to have off here. I think the emails, depending on how you do that, emails are still a great thing to still have on. Again, this is the category of trying to get people to book that first camp and come in for that camp. Once they book the first camp, they fall off this category, and then they end up in their first camp category. Now, this purchase completion email is a really important one up here, whether or not, or not depending on any of the options of lead nurturing. I think this is a good one to have if you are selling that online. They will get this purchase completion email once they complete that purchase. And this is a really great spot. Again, if you've been working with us, at least since this last fall promo, you've heard us talk about a welcome email and a welcome video or a trainer video. This would be the best spot to put that so that instead of, and I'll show you an example, instead of, so HQs is just kind of a general, we're excited to have you, can't wait for you to come in, download the welcome information, but this location has added some more information to better prepare these people for that camp, make them feel a little bit more in the know, a little bit more excited, ease some of those fears of what might be happening and how to get ready for it. So including links for the liability waiver, how to sign up for a camp and a focus meeting, what to bring, when to show up, adding them to check out the members page in your Instagram to get a more inside look on what you guys have going on. So just some more helpful things to get them more acclimated to coming in for their first time, with all, because that's a super vulnerable, high anxiety situation. And one thing that's missing here that I did mention then is a video. And we've talked about this in previous promos too, of something super simple, like a 30-second, whether it is your lead trainer, your franchise partner, your ops manager, whoever's kind of the face of your gym that could record a quick, exciting, like, we can't wait to have you. Our community is great. Our training is great. Just a little overview of what to expect from somebody that then they would likely see when they walk in for their first camp. So somebody that's very recognizable in the gym. And if you have other questions about welcome emails, we've given examples in the past too that we can share it as well. So next step then, so they would be booking that camp, hopefully booking that first camp. So then they would fall down into this first camp group of automations. We got them scheduled. So the first thing is a what to expect email. Now this will only go out if their first camp is not today or tomorrow. So if I'm sitting in the parking lot and I decide to sign up for a trial and I go to camp, I'm not getting a what to expect email after I've already done my first camp. So that one is in advance. First camp confirmation text so that they have confirmation of the date, the time, the trainer that they're all going to be working with. And then a day prior, text and SMS. Obviously, if they're booking ahead, we want to make sure to remind them when that first camp is. And then a to-do for the trainers to make sure that they know that somebody's coming in for their first camp so they can have that personal touch with them on their right when they walk in. Now, let's say worst case scenario, they book a camp and they don't show up, then they fall into the no-show category. And we have a to-do set up for the day after they don't show up, a text for the day after, and then if they still haven't booked another camp, 4 days after. This is a spot where I would suggest maybe adding something, and again, going back to depending on how your team runs this, if I were to say book a camp for 5:30 this morning and I didn't show up, and then I don't hear from anybody until tomorrow about me not coming, kind of feels like I was maybe forgotten. But if you are running a trial tracker, if you know that they canceled or they didn't show up and you have a process for reaching out right away, that's super great. But if you need assistance or a to-do, there are ways that you could set up a to-do to maybe populate an hour or two after that missed camp.
Miranda, do you have any suggestions in here for an email as well? 'Cause it looks like the first email is only 4 days after, right?
Mhm.
And so when we're
Yep,
talking
definitely that
opt-in
too.
rates again, making sure that I just didn't know
Yep.
what you normally do for emails.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be yeah, that's a good idea that I actually didn't think of. Um, that probably one day after follow-up should be more of something of encouragement of getting them to try and re-sign again or sign up again rather than waiting for those 4 days after, or even like a 2 day. Looking at where am I here? The setup of this audience that you could then manipulate to kind of pick those days. On how this one works is day after their absence of a no-show, they booked a group class, so group class in the system being a camp that was for yesterday, but zero bookings attended of a group class overall, zero bookings of a group class in the future. They're not opted out to any of this, so they can still get this communication. They have an active profile in Mind Body is what this is, meaning they're a prospect. They haven't had their first camp yet. And they haven't booked any camps using anything with Burn Member Universal, which would be like a Burn on Demand or any type of membership type of thing that way. So they still haven't had their first camp, no bookings of anything. If we wanted to change it to maybe a couple hours after, this would be the one you'd want to manipulate of maybe that booking event of yesterday of a group or of, excuse me, booking event of today, and then you can do booking first camp, and then with like a start date or start time of say like 2 to 3 hours prior, so that a couple hours after they miss that camp, this can be populated and you can reach out to them. Okay. All right. So then let's hope by day 4, they rebook that camp. They come in for camp. It's great. We have day 1 follow-up of an email and a text of day 1 done, congratulating them on their first camp. They're going to be sore, recovery input there. This would be a good spot too if you have any like specific stretches or things or encouraging more focus meeting signups to edit this one and make it a little bit more personalized for your team too, or for your location. Okay. Excuse me, I need some water. Now they've had their first camp. So then the next step is they're in your gym, they're an active trial member. So we're going to go back up to our 3-day trial, purchase active. Again, this is going to be the same type of situation in a paid offer or say a 7-day trial, but the cadence of these, so I'll compare the 3-day purchase active, we're contacting them what day after, 2 days after, 4 days after, so the day after it expired. And then there's another to do in here that I'll dig into in a second. But then looking down at the 7-day, oops, not that one. We're not reaching out until 5 days and then 7 days after. And so if you were running a 7-day trial, I would highly suggest adding like cloning these 1, 2, and 4 days to have more communication in those earlier days with your 7-day trial memberships. purchase actives in like a paid offer, obviously going to be much longer, spread out over that time. And we'll touch on things like focus meetings and membership offers and things like that. Where was I going here? I keep needing to move this out of the way. Okay, so email day after they've purchased active. So this one, you have to make sure to be looking at these. Okay, sorry, got myself confused there. Sometimes the communication in a purchase active is very specific to a certain person. So sometimes it is they've attended one camp, but they haven't booked any more camps, and they also haven't booked a focus meeting, and they also haven't signed a membership yet. So sometimes I've seen in the past that there's communication in here, but only if you meet all those specific criteria will it activate for you. So some people might not be getting communication if they're attending every day. And we want to make sure we're giving love to those people as well. But it looks like for this one, it's just they've attended their first camp. They have not purchased a membership for all of these day 1, day 2, and day 4. The day 4, so looking at the audience, oops, for that one, hang on, my screen's stuck. Where is it here? This guy. Okay, so looking at the audience for this, so it's 4 days after their 3-day trial started and they have not signed a membership. So client active profile is active. This is an active profile in mind body, doesn't have anything to do with their membership, and they don't have any opt-out tags, so they can still get this communication. Package, again, is that trial or paid offer. So they purchased a 3-day trial. They used it more than 0 times. So they've at least attended one camp using that trial, and it expired yesterday. They booked using that 3-day trial and have attended a camp using that 3-day trial sometime in the last 7 days. But they have 0 contracts. Contract, of course, being a membership. Purchased in the last 30 days and excluding does not contain fees. So sometimes like an annual fee or other fees might accidentally end up, or if it's like a previous member who might have an annual fee still on file. That excludes that possibility of those happening. So that would be targeting them for the day after that expires. And then this other one here to do, which I think is a pretty important one to have on in this, probably for any cadence of any trial, is they've attended one camp, no upcoming camps booked, and they haven't signed a membership. So starts out the same as the other one, active profile. They are not opted out. They've purchased a package that contains that 3-day trial and it's still active. So they're somewhere within those 3 days. They've attended. So I kind of read these backwards sometimes to make the sentence make the most sense. So bear with me. So exactly 0 bookings attended using that 3-day trial that started sometime in the last 30 days. So they've attended a camp sometime in the last 30 days with that 3-day trial, but 0 bookings of a group class that they have attended in the last 1 day. So they came here before, but they did not come yesterday, and 0 bookings of an upcoming group class. Then they have no contracts purchased in the last 30 days, again, excluding that potential of there being an annual fee or any other fees in there, and excluding the possibility that they snuck into camp and LoopSpark or MindBody didn't update or something got funky. So there were no bookings within the last 120 minutes, last 2 hours of camp. So if somebody's missing one camp, then we're getting that to do that we can reach out and make sure, especially with these short trial periods, making sure they're coming back in for that camp. Okay, so purchase active. Couple ways that then it can go here. So let's just say they did the trial and they did not end up signing a membership. They end up going down then to this win-back category. Now the win-back has 3 different groups in it. There's a burn on demand. So if they sign up for on demand and then end up canceling it, there's a win-back for that. There's a trial win-back, which is what we're talking about here. Then there's also a past member win-back campaign. So all the way from 3 days after their trial has expired to a year after, we're reaching out to them. As you can see, most of these are emails, a couple texts in there, reminding them that, hey, we're still here, burn is still great, offering up that option of the on-demand if it's getting in the gym that is too hard for them, or just giving them something to kind of remind them of the greatness of Burn, and maybe if they started on demand, they'd want to come back in the gym again. Just making sure we're continuing to nurture that relationship in hopes that either they come back one day or they tell all their friends how great Burn is. But that win back goes all the way out a year. Same with the past member. When they cancel their membership, there's a win back for them all the way out until a year as well.
Miranda, in there, can you open up an example just so we can see what that looks like what that
Yeah.
communication is?
I have one in here. Losing track of my button up there. Okay. All right. So we miss you. Remind you of the progress. So this pick up where you left off looks like it's going to open up an email for me to reach out to the gym. And then an option to check out Burn on Demand that would likely take you to the app.
And this is where we can also, like, you'll hear us talk a lot about videos, either in our upcoming promo calls. I'm a really big fan of putting videos into here, and we can show you like kind of how to do that. You can't embed a video in there, but you can put a picture that then goes to a YouTube, unlisted YouTube video. And so this could be, instead of just being a standard text, you could embed, quote unquote, a video with more personality in there. And so I think the thing with LoopSpark is, I know we're all like really short for time on like just how much time we have in a day, but to really like dive into some of these and go, okay, what is the strategy that HQ has, and is there more that we can add in there? Those videos being an example of that. And then keep in mind that these shouldn't be, I saw it went from 15 to 30 to 60 to 90. It was then like every 30 days. If you guys are utilizing a strategy to hit your entire audience with either weekly or bi-monthly emails, every other week emails, they should still be getting some of that communication from you as well. So if you're following a really good email marketing strategy to reach out with content and value, I wouldn't, like, these are important, but these shouldn't be the only communication that they're getting from your location once a month. And also getting HQ stuff too. So my hope.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. And just thinking of that, I know that this is often kind of an audience that most people want to target, is trying to bring back all of those old trials to invite them, whether it's for another event or a free offer, or it's a paid promotion coming up. And so just running through how this is a trial. Why is it saying member status? That's weird. I don't know why I would have a member status of expired or terminated here. On the right one. Trial win back. 1 second here. Just double check. That doesn't seem right.
Yeah, is that for past members, and then don't trials, do they fall into the prospect?
But the trial will still be.
For those of you listening now or later, I'm asking these questions because Miranda's the LoopSpark person, and so this is a lot of times only time that I see these too.
Yeah. I might be having a total brain fart here and I hopefully as I'm talking through this realize what I'm confused about with this member status here, but what we're looking at is the trial, past trial member, trying to get them to come back into the gym. So same as the top, the active profile, and they're not opted out to these win backs. Member status of expired or terminated would tell me that then this would be a past member. So I'm not sure if this is exactly the right setup of this audience, but I'll come back to that. The rest looks to be correct of the package that they purchased is any of these free trial or paid trial options. They used it more than 0 times. So they've used it at least once, and it expired exactly 200 days ago. Contract, so that membership, they have 0 contracts purchased, again, removing that fee option with a start date in the future. And 0 current active contracts that aren't either a fee or in that on demand, again, excluding any other options of a membership other than a regular in-gym membership. And they have no suspended contracts on file either. Booking status attended of whatever that purchase is that they purchased. They used that with a start date somewhere in the last 450 days. I might need to come back to this one and think about, I don't feel like that is the correct part to have in there. So But this is definitely an audience that I know that a lot of people look for when it comes to promotions of who they can target, and trying to get win backs after promotions as well too. So we can definitely work on creating more of those as that time comes. Okay. Where are we at here? Win backs. Okay, so then well, there's two more. So the last scenario then would be if we are in that 3-day trial form fill, we're reaching out to them, trying to get them to complete that purchase, get them to sign up, and they fall off of this after 2 days. They will then fall into what used to be the prospects category. My understanding now is it is this leads and prospects group because it looks to be about the same setup. And my understanding of the leads and prospects is that it is now working for both a regular prospect that comes in, has that mind body profile created, and the ones that now the landing page of your website no longer requires a password login. So then that mind body profile is not being created and they're just becoming a lead in LoopSpark. And so this is covering both of those options of whether it's a mind body profile or just a lead into LoopSpark. Starting from that when that was either immediately created all the way down to 28 days out. Now, thinking of that 3-day trial, we have communication day 1 all the way day 2. So if we look at the audience for the immediately after the account created, you can see, so again, if you're kind of new to creating audiences and not understanding, so these chunks are each rules, and within each rule is a filter. And looking at this, thinking they're all client, why can't they all be in one thing? You have to think of it as kind of like each of them is their own sentence in each individual thing. So client account creation date in the last 1 day is account creation of a mind body profile, and the lead creation date is going to be your LoopSpark. So it's either mind body or, important or statement there, LoopSpark lead. The prospect is a mind body term, so they're either a prospect or a lead in LoopSpark. Their tag is not, they're not opted out, and then they're not signing up or coming from a ClassPass sign up. 0 bookings attended of a camp of anything at any point, 0 bookings of an upcoming camp, and none that started in the last 4 days. Again, if something were to just sneak in or there was a merged profile or something that somebody came in and had a different one. 0 packages. So again, packages your trial or your paid promo voucher. So none of those purchased containing day, week, trial, class pass, any of those options. So they have not purchased any type of package for this immediate account creation. And they don't have any tags, so they're still a very much just a lead or a prospect. They're not signed up for any of the trial options. They're not an app, these tags remove them from any of the other options that they would click then on, whether it's an app sign up, the Missy Franklin leads, or a Black Friday lead. So this is specific to just those basic leads. A lead creation in LoopSpark can also happen when you just upload leads manually, that they'll fall into this as well. Now, again, back to what I said, the 3-day trial goes out to 2 days. So it will then pick up in this prospect on day 4. So if I look at the day 4 audience, everything is going to look the same. Obviously, it's going to be exactly 4 days ago. But when we come down to the offers, that tag now has removed that 3-day trial offer. So then they will fall into this category at that 3-day, at that 4-day point, excuse me, on the 3-day trial. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Same thing then if we're looking at like paid promotions that maybe go out to 7 or 10 days or 17 days, then they would pick up at that day 21, and that audience would look different to make sure that they're included in that, but not included in any of this overlapping communication.
Miranda, so this is one I see we're in Maple Grove. Have you worked with Tina on why some of those are off, or is that, do you know if that's a Tina decision, or would
Yeah.
we recommend them being on?
Right. So this is another one of those where depending on what if you're doing trial trackers and contact points and lead trackers in your gym and you have really good execution process for that, of touch points that you might follow that and not be fully relying on LoopSpark to keep track of that for you. There might be certain things that you'll want to take off of here, or you know, these are also these are universal as well. So the messaging is very generic. So with these being very new, I can also imagine that there might be some updates that they want to make, and that might be a reason why some of these aren't on, or there's certain information they don't want to share right away. I don't know specific to this account why some of these are off. These are just um, my thoughts of why that might be. And also too, like if you were using someone else for your lead nurturing, that you might not want to have that overlapping contact on certain days. However, I feel like emails at least are always a good thing to continue, even if you are reaching out via phone call or text often as well. Because those
Yeah, I see she
emails,
has like, and they don't go in order, I see. And so it's
yeah,
4 days,
everything's a
10
little bit out of.
days, and then it goes down to 4 days for the email. So Maple Grove has 4 day emails on, but 4 day texts off. And so,
Mhm.
like you said, if you're a location out there and you have a process for following up via phone call and text, and you don't want to worry about your LoopSpark doubling up with a different phone number and whatnot, really have the emails on. And maybe again, if you duplicate more and change those rules and start moving some of those up a little bit sooner too, or just trying to hit a few more days. I tell people if you think we email too much, just go register for Noble Shoes and
Anything else?
see how many times they email you.
Hmm.
And then we will realize we don't email that much.
Hmm. And to your point too, if you think of it, you know, you get emails from every other place you sign up for on a daily basis, and maybe in that week you open one of them. And so a lot of this communication can be kind of reoccurring of the same types of themes because you know, how many people are going to open every single email every day and just ignore it? So yeah, those emails are
And
very,
everybody's phone is a lot quieter today, and that is what spamming is for what we've had for the last 2 weeks.
mhm.
And so I'm guessing we will never be texting that much. And so if it's once a week or once every other week, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right. Okay, the last did I look at those correctly? Okay. The last then group of automations that are specifically for lead nurturing is going to be your prospect app group. And these are for anyone that may have stumbled upon your app randomly or the Burn Bootcamp app and signed up as a guest and has not created a mind body profile. They've never been in your gym. They don't have any history to them. So this is reaching out and saying, hey, set up a login, then you have access to our Burn on Demand. You have access to all of our trial options and all the cool things that are happening in the gym and on that app. So a few different pieces of communication to try and get them to complete that. And then also, hopefully then that gets them in your gym or at least thinking a lot more about Burn for maybe a future trial. Okay, that is it for all of the lead nurturing ones. And I have a few more things that I was going to go into, but I don't know, Drew, what do you think?
If you want to go another 5-ish or so minutes, then we'll open it up
Okay.
in case anybody does have questions. We do want to kind of start having more of these open discussions. And so if you get in there and you have questions, just like email us. That way, my guess is next week we'll probably just throw up another call. And the idea is that it's more working session. And so if you do have a specific question, we can come in there. If you can let her know ahead of time what that may be, and then we can kind of work through it as a group because I know there's a lot to LoopSpark, and it's hard to cover it in 40 minutes with a wide variety of knowledge levels as well. So we're trying to be as broad as we can to see where you guys need to go, and then from there really dive in.
Okay, so one last thing then that I will just dive into. So we talked about the lead nurturing, but another big important part of your membership base is your current members, your active members, and making sure that you are loving on them and keeping them happy and loving Burn. So there are a few groups of automations that are specific to that member nurturing. Starting up, where are we here? I'm blind. Okay, we'll go with nutrition. Nutrition is a one that is going to be based off of the buying habits of your members. But if you do have someone that buys Afterburn, there are or Ignite is the two main ones in here. That their month, excuse me, their month supplies. And so if we buy one day, this is a reminder then 29 days out that they need to purchase another one to continue that use of the Burn Nutrition products that are hopefully helpful to them in the gym. So these are helpful ones. There's also ones in here that have been added for creatine and collagen. And there are ways, and I thought there were ones in here before, but maybe they've been removed, or maybe I'm daydreaming about it, where you can target people that have never purchased to try and get people to know more about the Burn Nutrition products that you guys are offering and get more sales. Another one for membership is the Keep Moving Club, which you guys should all be pretty familiar with on how this works. Emails to the members when they are hitting that milestone, and then to-dos for your team to know when those milestones are coming up so you can celebrate in the gym. The membership category, which for this location, as you can see, they've added a ton of their own automations, but there's a lot of variety in here of good automations or good communication to send out to your members to keep them in the know of what's going on. Membership purchase yesterday, celebratory email to somebody who becomes a new member. We've got referral stuff, leaving reviews, and booking focus meetings are big ones in here, to be sending messaging out to your members to make sure that they are doing that. What else? Couple membership expiration automations to make sure you're staying on top of those, birthdays, membership anniversaries, and things like that, just so you know what's going on in your entire membership crowd of all of those members of yours. And then the last one, which I did touch on earlier, is that win back. So when you do lose a member, whether it's they've terminated and disappeared, or they canceled, that there is a win back campaign for them after that to try and continue loving on them and letting them know that we're still here and Burn is still great. And again, this is offering that on-demand option as well for them to kind of stay in the know of Burn. On top of that, so some other things that I would suggest, and we don't have a whole lot of time to get into what those all look like right now, but something that a lot of locations I have asked for in the past that I've helped out with is last visit automation. So for your members that have not been in the gym for however long, and making sure you're holding them accountable, you're reaching out, and you're making sure that they're feeling loved and noticed and wanted back in your gym if they've missed for a few days. And so this location has a cadence starting at 8 days, they get a text, and then to-dos built out. They're a little bit out of order, but 14, 30, 60, where are we? 45, 60, 75, 90 days, so all the way 90 days out of that member not being in the gym, to make sure that we're hopefully getting them back in the gym, whatever that is. There's also ways that you can set these up to work for your suspended members so that you don't forget about them, and you can reach out to them frequently to make sure that they're still doing well and encouraging them to come back in when they are ready as well. I feel like I had one more thought, but I think that might be because expiring contracts is now in the membership group. I think that's about it. We can, Drew, any thoughts? Open up to any questions?
There's no questions in the chat. Does anybody have a question or a specific question for Miranda that we could dive into?
This is Jen. I feel like the hardest part for me is setting up segments. Like I just don't get the logic at all. How did you learn how to figure that out? Did it come easy to you, or did you just do it over and over?
No, I did it. It was a long process. I've been working in LoopSpark since Burn started using LoopSpark, so it's been a few years and a lot of practice of trial and error. The building of those audience segments is, like I said, like a puzzle. You have to think of everything that they fit in and then things they don't fit in. And I think the way that I learned best is by familiarizing myself, kind of like I was showing you guys today, on what that looks like, how that reads, because those rules aren't they don't quite make sense in Burn lingo either. And so putting that all together, it's definitely challenging. So don't think you're alone.
Okay.
And it takes a lot of practice. And
Jen, do you have an example of one, or do you want
yeah.
to schedule a time with Miranda to like go through building one?
No, I always just send a ticket in and ask John to build it for me. I don't have anything specific, but I just can't handle, I don't know. But my other question for you is, the video. I love the idea of of a trainer doing a video, a welcome video. Do you have any, examples that you could send out?
We'll reshare those back out. It's very similar to the videos that we ask for the locations to post.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But Lacrosse North did a really good one. Or Lacrosse, they dropped the North name. Lacrosse did a good one, and it's like a quick walkthrough. Of it's like a virtual tour. It was like a minute and maybe a minute 10 long. Um, from the
Okay.
lead trainer and the ops manager, to like give somebody a virtual idea of what it looks like walking through the front door. I don't think we show the front door enough in Burn and help people visualize seeing themselves walk through it. And so it can be done highly. We've seen some that are highly edited. Other ones, it's one take. It's just they record it, they turn the phone sideways, click record, and literally walk through and then fade in, fade out on the back end. And so it doesn't have to be a big production.
Got it. Okay.
And this is where, with your team, you can tell them like, hey, we want we want a video that's talking specifically to somebody that hasn't been in the gym for 20 days. Like that message is probably different than the message like on the very first day, or when they first sign up. And so you could record a couple different videos. And when you're kind of thinking about your audience, you can also then think about what videos you want to do as well. So especially coming up to winter promo, that would be a different video than what you would have for the trainer or for like a free trial. You especially if you're doing a hard start, you can start to talk about that hard start
Oh, good
on the
idea.
front end, and you can start to address some of those questions. And so every location has a different need. I give an example, like the first time I went to Concord, it was very hard to find the front door because GPS takes you into a big parking lot and a shopping center. And so if you're already running a little bit late, now you can't find the place. So depending on your location, and this isn't just you, Jen, it's anybody that's listening, depending on your
Yeah.
location, if parking gets a little bit tight, maybe it's hard to find, you can eliminate some of those anxieties on the front end before they even think about walking through the door because they signed up for a free trial and now they're getting a visualization of what your location looks like and you're checking off boxes. Maybe it's if they come to 5:30 a.m., maybe parking's really tight. If parking's tight, where else do you park? Things like that to
Hmm.
take into consideration.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay.
Any other questions? I think next week's training will likely be diving into audiences. So if any of you guys that are on today are planning to be on that or have any audiences in mind that you specifically want to see how the build is or whatever, for targeting, let me know ahead of time and we can kind of create a list of those that we can work on. But if it helps in any way right now, if I can just touch on it lightly, of building these, as you are creating all of the rules to factor somebody in, I like to just think of like I put the person visually in front of me and I think about all of the parameters that fit within them. So what is it that they've signed up for? Have they been to a camp yet? Have they signed up for a camp yet? Do they have a membership? What is it that we're trying to make sure we're targeting? And when I look at these filters here, 99.9% of the time of all of these, the only ones I'm using are booking, client, contracts, and package. So booking behaviors of what camps and when, client information of member statuses, of tags, things like that. And then package being your trial or your voucher, and contract being your membership. There's very rare times, unless we're like a specific calendar date we want to send it out to, or you're looking at products, Burn Nutrition products or retailer things that you're trying to target. But those are really the four main, the booking, client, contract, and package that I work with and that majority of the automations that are built for you utilize. So if you just think of those four categories as you're trying to think of where they fit, hopefully that can be a little bit helpful. I know it can be a lot though.
And Amy said, and it's a good idea, and I know you do it, Miranda, too, is she'll sometimes copy an automation solely just for the correct segment.
Hmm.
If you have an audience and then you want to just manipulate some days or whatnot, that's sometimes easier to do than starting from scratch.
Right. And everything, every audience that HQ has created or you've created on your own is saved in here. So if you are creating those client segments and you go to import rules, you can look up all of those and say, I'll just click on, well, that's not a good one. You can preview what it looks like here and import it and then make any changes that you want, depending on if there's, end date in the last 100 days, whatever it is that you're changing. So you can not completely start from scratch too.
I do have a question. When HQ updates LoopSpark, do you lose all of your customization?
Depends. Um, if depends on where the automations are. So I know, and they have said in the past, like if they're updating, say, this trial membership group, like the universal groups, then it would likely be, yes, a refresh of everything. And so if you are customizing things, I would highly recommend cloning that automation first and using that clone as your new one rather than changing the original and then losing all of that. That makes sense.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that's good. If anybody has any questions, so like, can you just repeat that just in case
yeah.
they
So
didn't see this
so if
time?
I so good example here is during a paid promotion, there's likely a lot more communication you want to have in here or things you want to be specific about your um, paid offer, your hard start date, anything like that. And so if I'm gonna utilize, say, this email here for the 3 days after, and this is what the email looks like, pretty basic. I want to keep this for future use for then when we fall back into trials or if HQ were to update things. And so if you just clone it and it'll make a duplicate one of that, then you can go in and create that one and activate that one for that time being. And then when HQ updates things, it will only update the ones they've created.
And so then you would turn off the original, you'd use your clone. Then if HQ updates the original, you could decide like what from that do I want to pull over,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
just reclone that and do another
Or
one.
reclone that. Another option would be to go into your email templates and just copy that email template or create your own. And then when you are in that automation, so say I want to change, where did that one go? If I wanted to change this one, so I've created a different template, then I come in here to the message and you can change that template to the one you created. So that when HQ updates and they all get refreshed, you still have that template saved in all of your templates and you can bring it back again if you needed to.
Awesome. I think Monica has a question.
Hey guys, hi. Yes. So you guys talked a lot about the importance of that very first automation in the form fill, and then kind of in conjunction with that, what to expect once they're in their first campus booked. What
Mhm.
I'm struggling with is that first in both of those scenarios, that first email, we have so much information that we want to share with like how to be ready for that first camp. Everything from like bring a pair of clean and dry tennis shoes and your water to making sure your liability waiver is signed to making sure that child watch waiver is done, that child watch is pre-booked, that you got the app downloaded, like all those things. Have you guys figured out or seen how to like put all of that information into one very concise, very efficient email? I just feel like there's so much information and I don't want to scare people away with like, you have to know all these things, but you kind of have to know all these things. Any thoughts on that or recommendations?
Miranda, you want to
Yes,
take it? Otherwise, and then I
sure.
have some ideas as well.
I know, yeah. Because we've talked about this in the past too. We've built out a couple different welcome emails over the years where we, like you said, there's a lot of information we want them to have. And I think we've started to try and narrow that down to what are the most important things that they need to know right now before that camp. What can you tell them when they get into the gym? Not everybody has a kiddo coming into child watch, so is that necessary for everybody to get that communication? Things like that to try and narrow it down to not be super overwhelming. Um, I'm trying to see if I know I have an example. Oh, there it is. Drew, do you want to your thoughts and I can try and find this one?
Yeah, so in talking with the video, as I said, I'm really high on the video. And so this would be, Monica, where I would split the two. I would do your information that's for everybody in that top section. And then I would put a section down below that says bring in kiddos, mom, family, dad, because it's not just mom all the time. Maybe it's dad that's going to bring the kids. Um, you could have a separate video for them too. So it's a little bit down further in the email. So if you think about how you're going to read it, you're going to read it top down. And so if somebody doesn't have kids where child watch isn't necessary for them, they don't need to know about it, then they see it down below. The other thing is I know it always depends on if you guys would know your cadence. Are you guys usually getting on the phone with them before they come in? If the answer is yes, you can pry for some of those questions on that discovery call. And so, but only you know. Every location is a little bit different. And so if they're coming through the door without you talking to them on the phone first, then I'd probably have that email a little bit more full. If you're getting in touch with them before and helping them set up their first camp, and you go, yeah, no, we based on my trial tracker, we're getting in touch with our trials beforehand. Remember, some of that information doesn't need to be in that email then because you'll hit it on a phone call.
Mhm. Here's an example I found. I think this is the most recent one that we worked to kind of put together what we thought were the most important things to have in here. So attention grabber right away, a little bit about burn, and then, what to expect, what to bring. Here's your waiver. Sign up for your first camp. I think the bolding kind of brings out the most important stuff. You can kind of skim over the rest, downloading the app, and then that, following us and contacting us. So keeping it short and sweet, I think would be helpful. And I don't know. I like this one.
I like that, Miranda. Is that something that you would be able to clone to my LoopSpark that I could kind of use as a guide and work off of?
Yes. Yeah, I should be able to. Let me double check that this was something I created and I'm just stealing from the location.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think you did. The
And
other
then,
thing that I would really challenge people on is I know we want to try to hit every scenario for every person in this first email. But that being said, I'd go back to what are the numbers? Is it one or two a year that may come in that seem a little flustered moms that don't know how to don't know what the child watch process is versus 10 a month? And so I think you have to weigh what are the main issues that we're trying to hit on the front end, and let's make sure we hit those because that's going to be a majority of our leads. Does that make sense? So rather than going, okay, we want to go the whole year without one trial, not knowing where to go. Yes, I understand the importance of it, but that's kind of the idea of those reach outs as well. And so let's not over inundate, or how do you say that word, with information just for the one or two times that we may have a little frustration in the gym. Or a little, not even frustration, but just maybe a little panic because mom brought three kids in 2 minutes before camp starts and we got to get waivers filled out.
Totally makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm. Anything else, guys? Okay. Drew, you got anything else?
No, it's a lot. We could probably stay on here for another 2 hours, which is why now we wanted to get a first foundation. And so then we just really encourage you guys, if you have questions, to come to these calls with your questions. We would rather these be more roundtable styles than us talking to you the whole time. I think we get into the FAQs are always, or the Q&As are always usually more valuable in any training or presentation. Because they're real life things that you guys are dealing with. And so if you have questions, certainly reach out to us. We'll get those into the next one. We'll announce when that is. We have some other stuff coming up with some different promo roundtables, that all of this comes into play. And I think you guys are paying for this email service already with your tech fees. And so if for us not to utilize it, I think is a huge miss on our part if we're not emailing out at least weekly. I know that might be a stretch to get there to start. But as you're coming into promo time, this is the time that we can help start giving some ideas on promo content, utilizing these different audiences to hit. Think about your Black Friday, your winter promos, everything, and go, okay, how do we best utilize this and how do we communicate? If it's just sitting out there, it's not doing you any good. I know I've heard some people say, like, I don't want to spam them. I'm telling you, you're not going to spam them, emailing them twice a week. And at the end of the day, you would rather them unsubscribe from your email list so you can't email them than you think you have a shot with them. You'd just rather the hard no, like I'm not interested, or you just want somebody that's going to continue to open the emails and when the time is right. And so, yeah, just can keep joining these calls. I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know we're over an hour here. And so we'll send this out. You guys have our contact information. So again, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, guys.